Many thanks for staying with us here on News Desk to some more stories now. And the former National Youth Organizer of the People's National Convention, Abu Ramadan, has indicated that he will be filing for contempt charges against the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Charlotte Osei, and her deputies. Now, this follows a decision by the Commission to not delete names of people in the voters' roll who registered with NHIS cards. In a statement after an IPAC meeting on Thursday, the EC said, quote, "For persons who registered with NHIS cards, such registrations were lawful at the time of registration, and the subsequent declaration of unconstitutionality in the earlier Abu Ramadan case does not automatically render them void," end quote. The EC, however, did say that it will implement the various directives of the Supreme Court towards ensuring a clean register for the 2016 election. Well, this very response by the EC, and which you are clearly seeing on your screens now, that statement released by the Electoral Commission, is gotten Abu Ramadan and his lawyers pretty upset. And what they are now saying, they will be heading back to court to file charges of contempt against the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Madam Charlotte Osei, and her deputies. Let's go on to the phone lines now and speak to Abu Ramadan, and let's try and find out from him really if they are going to embark on this action and how soon they'll be doing that and to what end, essentially. Abu Ramadan is joining me now on phone. Abu, good morning. Many thanks for your time on News Desk, sir. Abu, if you can hear me, good morning. Many thanks for joining us, sir.
Yeah, I can hear you. Good morning,
okay,
and thank you for having me.
Right, sure. So essentially, you are saying that you are now going to court to file charges of contempt against the EC. I mean, what have they done wrong?
Clearly a deliberate move or deliberate attempt by the Electoral Commission to misinterpret the orders of the court and flout the court in it, because by virtue of their misinterpretation, they want to get away with not implementing the orders of the court. In consultation with my lawyers, I've instructed that we proceed and explore the avenues available to us. Which one of it is to bring them before the court in the contempt suit. Which we
So you are saying your lawyers have, I mean, based on the advice given to you by your lawyers, the Electoral Commission is deliberately misinterpreting the orders of the Supreme Court. But was the Supreme Court really specific as to the Electoral Commission deleting names of persons with registration based on NHIS cards? I don't recall seeing that in the ruling.
Which part of the ruling are you talking about? Or which of the judgments are you talking about? Because when you read the entire document, don't read bits and pieces that have been thrown out in the media for propaganda purposes. Let those who want to do propaganda keep doing their propaganda, and then let those who want to stick to what the law has said or what the judges have said, let them stick to it. If you read parts of it, you will not understand what the judgment of the court is. You will certainly be confused, as I believe the Electoral Commission is. But when you read the actual ruling of the court in its entirety, and you come even to the orders of the court, it is without doubt the order of the court for the Electoral Commission to delete and give opportunity to every person that is deleted who used the health insurance the opportunity to come back and re-register. Because I don't believe that the order of the court was that delete the names of dead people, delete the names of minors, and afford them the opportunity to come back and re-register. But that is to say, delete the dead person and give him the opportunity to come back and register. Or remove the name of the minor and afford him the opportunity to come back and register. Certainly not. Certainly not.
I seem to recall your counsel, I'm speaking of Nana Santi Bedieto, speaking on Newsfile, and he did say that certain aspects of the judgment were not clear enough, and that he was even considering heading back to court to seek clarity on this issue. So if your lawyer was even not too clear in his mind whether or not the Supreme Court was specifically saying people who registered onto the roll with NHIS cards need to be expunged.
He didn't say that.
Oh, he did say that, because I did.
He made reference to certain aspects of the ruling.
What aspects?
He didn't say the ruling is entirety. So whatever aspects are those, by now, I'm sure if to us we still not satisfy ourselves with clarity, it everything is open to us to go back to court to get clarity.
Okay. Mr. Ramadan, just hold on briefly while I try and take the thoughts of a senior colleague here, and joining me now also on phone is the former Attorney General Ayikwe Otu with some thoughts on this matter. I do not know, but I'm sure he has read in detail that very ruling by the Supreme Court, and he has a lot more experience as far as this issue is concerned. So he's joining us with some thoughts on this. Mr. Ayikwe Otu, good morning. Many thanks for accepting to speak to us here on News Desk. So, is this the same interpretation you also give to that ruling by the Supreme Court that the EC should go ahead and expunge the names of persons who got their names onto the register through the National Health Insurance cards?
I have a little challenge. I didn't hear everything you said, but could you repeat it?
Okay. The question I was asking is whether or not you also agree with the position of Mr. Abu Ramadan. That seems to suggest that the EC, the Electoral Commission, is in contempt of the courts based on his...
Yes, I've gotten the trend now.
Right.
I think he is right. You see, we've got to read the judgment as a whole, and it seems to me that some of these social commentators have done some disservice. You know, immediately the judgment was handed down, some social commentators took to social media and said that the Supreme Court has ordered the EC to remove, I think, 3 or 4 categories. 1, all aliens. 2, all dead people. 3, all minors. And 4, all those who use national identification, NHIS cards. And then some started putting a figure on it. The figure is 600,000. Then Ben Epstein also waded into it and said he had the percentage of those who registered with it across the region and started giving some percentages. In fact, when the ruling came out, and he said it had published it on his website, it became clear that what the Supreme Court said was that the EC should delete, or to use a common parlance, all those who did not or clean the register by making sure that those there are those who are entitled in accordance with the Constitution and the laws to be on the register, and that anybody whose name is deleted could be given the opportunity to again register. There were no categories actually stated, though they could be inferred. If you look at what the Supreme Court was called upon to do, you would not miss the point that indeed the one that comes into mind is immediately those who register with the National Insurance Scheme cards. Because, you see, Abu Ramadan had earlier gone to court, and the court had ruled that what they did was not in consonance with Article 42. Article 42 only identifies Ghanaian citizens of 18 years and above and of sound mind. So if you have an NHIS card, it does not make you necessarily a Ghanaian, because you could have done this just to get away from paying cash and carry when you go to hospital. The Supreme Court held that indeed all those who registered with those cards are not proving that they are Ghanaians, and therefore their names ought not to be there. So the word delete or clean was actually used.
Mr. Ayikwe, now the question...
The EC is now having a difficulty.
Yes, the question many are asking is...
should delete those names or clean. This is a direct order of the Supreme Court. It's not the Supreme Court should be presumed to know that they know that
Mr. Ayikwe, I was asking whether or not this ruling, per your understanding, takes retrospective effects. I mean, some were suggesting that that ruling given by the Supreme Court did not take retrospective effect, and that subsequently any other registration that the Electoral Commission was going to do, they would have to consider this very ruling by the Supreme Court. I mean, do you agree with that? Okay, we seem to have lost Ayiko too, who happens to be a former Attorney General, on the line. But I still have Abu Ramadan with me, and he'll wrap up with me before I try and see whether I can re-establish contact with lawyer Ayiko Otu. Abu, so, well, the former Attorney General seems to agree with you. So I'm supposing you'll be heading to court when? Today or on Monday?
No, next week. I've instructed the lawyer, so next week we'll be heading to court. But then you see, the issue of retrospective effect and all of that, you see, it is all in the ruling. The Supreme Court justices took pain and time to address all of those issues. So that one doesn't come to play. That's why the judges of the court said it will be fair, it will be unfair by law for them to say, when in 2012, the CR-72 mandated or gave opportunity to people to register using health insurance, which was legal at that time, and they did so. Today that it is illegal for you just to delete their name and not afford them the opportunity of re-registration. It will be fair. It will be unfair on the part of law. That's why the court has given them the opportunity to say, delete and come out of re-registration.
Okay, all right. So you are going back to court, and you're saying you're going back to court next week to file contempt charges.
Next week, inshallah.
So, and you're no longer seeking to get clarity on quite a number of issues. As far as
whatever it is, next week we'll communicate.
Okay.
If we decide we want to seek clarity before and give opportunity to the Electoral Commission to restate this position and act upon it, or we'll straight away go and file contempt charges against them.
Okay.
We'll communicate to you what our decision is before we file the suit.
Indeed. Abu Ramadan, many thanks for your time on News Desk this morning. And Abu Ramadan is a former National Youth Organizer of the People's National Convention, and he sent that very issue to court. He secured a judgment, and based on that judgment, this whole issue has come up. But again, I'm joined on the line by the former Attorney General Ayiko Otu, whom we lost a short while ago, but thankfully we have him back on the line. So Ayiko Otu, so they are saying they are going back to court. Earlier, their lawyer, Nana Santi Bedieto, hinted that they were going to go back to court anyway, but they were going to seek clarity on a number of issues as far as that ruling was concerned. I mean, they felt the ruling was a bit ambiguous in some aspects. Do you also see this ruling by the Supreme Court as ambiguous? Is it not self-explanatory? Is that you go to? Is that you go to? Okay, we seem to be having some challenges with that phone line. There, lawyer, you go to. Good morning. Can you hear me once again? Wow. Okay, so it doesn't appear we have him on the line. But if you can hear me, lawyer, you go to. I am asking whether or not this ruling by the Supreme Court is ambiguous enough to bring about all this brouhaha. Okay, so we do not have him on the line. We'll try and raise him once more. If we're able to get him, we'll bring that conversation to you. But earlier on the AM show, my colleague Roland Walker spoke to one other lawyer, lawyer Yao Opong, who says, well, he believes the Supreme Court ruling is not at all ambiguous. But let's take a listen to his stand on this very issue as well.
The point is that I don't see any ambiguity in the Supreme Court decision. The clear orders are made. Take immediate steps to delete the name. And so you don't read that in isolation to two. And the name, any person whose name is deleted from the register of voters by the Electoral Commission, person to order A about to giving the opportunity to register under the law. It is referring to those who use the NHI card, which the court has declared to be unconstitutional. The process of deleting the name is what people are infusing some disagreement into. And I say that, as far as I'm concerned, when the court said that this approach enables us to do justice in a manner that preserves the rule of law, then we think that any person whose registration is affected by the decision in the Abu Ramadan case be given the opportunity to go through the process of registration to establish its eligibility or otherwise in order that the appropriate remedies provided that be applied. And the court says that it should be deleted in accordance with law. The Supreme Court decision is quite clear on this matter, and I'm saying that what people are disagreeing is how the delisting should be done. I don't think the EC themselves, contrary to what others are reporting, have said categorically that even if it is proven that somebody was not entitled or qualified or eligible to be registered, had his name entered on the register, and even that is proven and the court makes an order, they are not going to do it. That is not what I understand them to be saying.
Okay.
Well, that was a private legal practitioner and law lecturer, Yao Opon, sharing his thoughts on that very issue. We'll bring you more in our news and news analysis program, The Pulse, which airs at 3 p.m. Time for some updates in the world of business and sports. But do stay on, because we have updates from the courts. And if you are trying to access justice today, I'm sure it will be in a pretty difficult spot right now, as we are hearing reports that scores are stranded at the courts following a decision by judicial staff to embark on that action over salary harmonization. Time for business.